They had just caught a bluefin tuna worth over $10,000, and it was actually robbed by a shark as the sea bully clamped down tightly on the tuna's tail. No matter how hard the men on the boat pulled, it wouldn't let go, as if it wanted to swallow him whole. Even several strong men working together couldn't shake it off. They could only watch helplessly as their hard-earned catch was devoured by the shark. They had been hoping to sell this bluefin tuna for a good price, but now it was all over. It wasn't until the tuna's tail was bitten off that the shark finally swam away. Satisfied, the young man couldn't just let this go. He decided on the spot to teach this robbery a lesson. To let it know what a true bully really is, they prepared a large bag of fresh fish meat, putting it into a netted bag so that the smell could spread as much as possible when they threw it into the sea. Of course, to cater to the shark's taste, they thoughtfully cut the fish into different shapes, some into big chunks, and some whole fish directly hooked, determined to catch this big shark no matter what. Once everything was ready, the young man, with 20 years of experience under his belt, began to pull the line vigorously at any sign of movement. However, at first, he only caught small fish. Finally, after half an hour of waiting, a tremendous force bit down on the line. The young man immediately increased the power and desperately reeled it in. Sure enough, 3 minutes later, the shark surfaced. It finally knew fear, being played like a dog by the young man, struggling but only getting dragged closer, completely opposite to its earlier arrogance. But the robber was actually trying to escape downwards with a fishing line. If the line scraped against the boat's propeller, it would be disastrous. Seeing it so uncooperative, they decided not to hold back anymore, taking out a harpoon and stabbing it into the sea. The shark was instantly pierced through, unable to move, and was pulled onto the boat by the strong man. Its mouth wide open and eyes unblinking. Upon closer inspection, its rows of sharp teeth were incredibly razor-sharp, still stained with the blood of the earlier tuna. They had finally avenged the tuna. From now on, this bully could no longer reign supreme. Moreover, they were now going to perform a public service. They would butcher it right then and there. Normally, they didn't have much of an appetite for shark meat, but since they had decided to eliminate this menace, they would see it through to the end, letting it experience the taste of being slaughtered. They first slowly dissected its body, removed the intestines, and packaged all the remaining fish meat to feed to other fish, finally relieving their pent-up frustration. Although it was risky, at least they had caught the culprit this time. However, the next culprit was even more cunning. The large fish that these men had just caught was half dead, and they didn't know what kind of monster it had encountered. Since it wouldn't sell for much, they decided to use it as fresh bait. To make the smell spread faster, they chopped it up into pieces before throwing it into the sea. But just as the fish hit the water, the men's expressions changed. Today, the fish bit the hook with astonishing speed. Before they knew it, they were struck by a powerful pull, making them break out in a cold sweat. Seeing that the main angler couldn't hold on, the young man beside him quickly steadied the rod and reminded him to release the line in time to prevent losing the hook. But unexpectedly, the big fish was unreasonable, wildly trying to escape downwards, causing the angler on the boat to suffer. In an instant, the rod had been swallowed by the sea, yanking him off balance and nearly throwing him overboard, forcing him to brace himself in a wide stance just to stay upright. Yet no matter how he released the line, he couldn't stop the rod from bending down violently, the reel almost sparking from friction, and he couldn't turn the situation around. Waves rose and fell, indicating that the situation beneath the surface was becoming increasingly difficult to control. If this continued, they would probably end up pulling up a dead fish again. So the man had no choice but to exert all his strength to let out the line, his face turning red. Fortunately, after half an hour of struggle, the rod finally began to straighten, and the big fish also floated to the surface. It turned out to be a giant grouper weighing over 200 pounds, exhausted from the relentless tugging of the relentless human. Its mouth opened wide in anger, seemingly about to curse, but its fury only excited the angler even more. After a bit of rough handling, they took a photo with it as a souvenir. Although battling the large grouper had been perilous, this group of men wasn't satisfied yet. They wanted something even more thrilling. Just then, a drone captured a more exhilarating scene. A swarm of blackfin sharks was patrolling the surface of the sea, creating a massive net over the clear waters. A spectacular sight. The men were so excited their hearts felt like they would burst. There wasn't a sea angler who could resist such temptation. Before tackling the tough job, they switched to a sturdier rod and, out of respect, made a reckless decision. They discarded all safety gear and stood on the edge of the boat to fish, truly living on the edge for the thrill. After determining their position, they used small fish to create a burley, then began throwing lures towards the school of sharks. The ravenous sharks, spotting the bait, became fixated. As the line was slowly reeled back, the sharks below the waves followed closely. However, perhaps they had exhausted all their luck today, as it took a long time before any sharks were successfully hooked. Therefore, they changed to using small fish as bait again, ready to lock onto the sharks, just by keeping an eye on the bobber's position. Sure enough, it wasn't long before the bobber suddenly sank. The man quickly reeled in, but the blackfin shark swam with unprecedented speed. Realizing it had been tricked, it thrashed wildly underwater, occasionally leaping out to perform a 720-degree backflip. But in the end, it still couldn't escape the power of the man's iron grip. Gritting his teeth, he confidently reeled in, and after 20 minutes, the shark was finally defeated, slowly dragged back to the side of the boat. Even after its tail was tied, it still thrashed around, living up to its reputation as a fierce predator. But like the previous grouper, it couldn't avoid the fate of being photographed with the man holding its tail. Thus, the day of fishing came to an end, and the man returned home satisfied. Having fully indulged in the thrill, follow me to discover a new world every day.